Joey, we are on live, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Every time I get to talk to you and see you, I get jealous because it's in the 20s here in New Jersey, and we got more snow coming. And every time I see your posts or we get to chat, you got a guinea tea on, and you're in the sun, and you got the top down, and I'm like, man.
I'm actually sitting outside too, and it's funny how we always look at the grass is always greener on the other side, because I think about, imagine being in New Jersey today with the snow. I think that sounds amazingly beautiful to me.
Snow is beautiful, and that's like, that's a lot what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about being grateful for what we have.
Cool, Joey.
Sometimes you got to look up, right?
Yes, mate. Look, I loved some of the stuff I've been reading from you recently, Joe. Before we get going, let me just welcome everyone to our new show, Own Your Gifts. Joey and I are going to share our experiences and some tips and hacks and tricks around gratitude. Joey and I actually share a very similar, very special day to me, which is my sobriety date. For me, it's on the 15th of September 2009. And Joey, what date were you?
August 20, 2009.
Yeah, and to think that we're on opposite sides of the universe, and we share so much in common. My message is often around gratitude. And before we kick it off, what I want to just share with the people watching and anyone who is going to watch, please, first of all, let us know where you're watching from, if you don't mind. One of the things that I love about this platform is the ability to connect with people from all over the globe. So just like Joey coming in from New Jersey today, let us know where you're watching from. And secondly, I wanted to just mention about gratitude. I've come up with a little formula, Joey, and it's this, all right? I believe that gratitude, a spiritual awakening, and serenity are all very closely aligned. When I'm feeling any one of those three, it's a very similar feeling, and that's some of the stuff I can't wait to share with our audience as we move forward. So, Joey, how you doing, mate? Thanks so much for being on the show.
I'm really grateful to have an opportunity to chat with you and to connect with viewers and share my truth and like you said, some tools for us to be able to plug into the force of gratitude, because it's a miraculous force, and it's always giving to us. It's always available to us. We just need to figure out ways to plug into it. And I think, you mentioned about, us being in recovery, and and us getting sober in the same year, which really means that, like, for people who choose to live a life that way, for me it was decades and decades of pain and misery, both for myself and anybody in close contact with me. And I like to call August 20th 2009 what certainly wasn't a day that I was looking to get sober, and I did get sober by way of divine intervention, but I take that as a rebirth for me, is when I was born again and got another chance to live. And the thing about gratitude is life, you have to go down before you come up. And the thing about people in recovery is that they were torn down to the ground. Most. I know that's how it was for me. It's most consequences short of, long-term prison, death, or, some sort of institution, like permanently. And when you lost everything, and what it's like to feel completely alone. In my case, it was because I pushed everybody away. I had so much, and I was grateful for so little. And, I see my recovery as a gift. This show is called Own Your Gifts. That pain and those failures and those mistakes and all that is my greatest gift, because, like, I had to, as a way of survival, look up. Look for my blessings, looks for lessons, look for meaning in life. So a lot of times people are just cruising along and coasting, and without a really good reason, most people won't choose to look at our blessings.
Yeah, Joey, one of the things you talk about, then you see me light up often. I smile a lot, but it's funny how, and I just want to share with anyone watching, sometimes I smile at some of the horrible stuff that we went through. And it's because I relate, and I guess because I'm here now. Do you ever notice that we sometimes, as people in recovery, we smile and we laugh at some horrible stuff, and it's just because we relate and we've sort of come through the other side. Do you get that much?
Yeah, no, hey,
Yeah.
because I'm blessed.
Yes, that's what it
It's
is.
blessed. If life were fair, I would be dead or in prison.
And
And so I feel blessed.
you talked about pain and misery. I often describe it the same way. It was pain, hurt, and misery. I say that 17 years of me being out there, putting any substance I possibly could into my body to change the way I feel, to try and get some level of happiness. It's very similar journeys. I love that about you, bro.
Yeah, they say, what do they say? Pain is the touchstone to spiritual progress.
Absolutely. Hey, Joe, we got a couple of hello to Antonika, coming to us from, I think she said, from South Australia. And Heidi, thank you so much for joining us. Sean, it's a pleasure to have you with us. And yeah, guys, anyone else watching, please let us know where you're watching from. Where Joey and I are here to share some of our tips, tricks, and hacks around gratitude, and we've already got stuck into that. Joey,
I have a question. So, what does your gratitude practice look like? Is there a specific time of day where it's best? Is it done consistently? What are your go-to tools to plug into that force?
I love it, mate. And I don't know how I came up with this formula exactly. I think in the early days when we're starting to come from that pain and misery and trying to build a life that we can have happiness, I think you need a pretty rigorous routine or a schedule in place to do that. These days, I just want to share that it just comes. I guess I am conscious of it, but I've become so conscious of it that it doesn't even feel like I'm doing it. All right, let me just put that out there. Firstly, for me, I heard someone mention in a group that I was running for Bunch of Men yesterday that he wakes up with an empty cup. And I said to him, I think I wake up with my cup pretty full, which that spiritual cup. And I think the way I got to that was that routine that I said. So for me, I actually do spend every single morning at the gym, and I've been doing that for like 8 years now, not at least 6 days out of the 7. So kindness comes up straight away too, like not being sharing kindness with people. But what I notice is when I get up, I don't wake up and start meditating. It's I hear it all the time and I think it's great. I wish I did do that. Occasionally I will do that, but that's not how I do it. I wake up, I drink about half a liter of water. It's just something that I do probably for my training. I start getting ready for the gym. Maybe that means I need to get my daughter dressed, packed, ready for school. Whatever it means I get up at a different time. But just to get to the point, my spirit wakes up when I'm in the gym. It's when I start doing rigorous exercise. So when I push myself physically is the moment my spirit wakes up. And I want to also add that it's not every day. I don't always get that. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's a push. I love that about gratitude because you can't make gratitude happen when you want it. It's a direct result of the action that I put in yesterday, last week, and the month before, So yeah, to cut it short, to answer that briefly, I think kindness, I'm always going to mention kindness because I think if I'm mean to anyone, so even just saying hello to the coffee shop owner, the people at the gym, that instant connection with other human beings is what draws my happiness out,
I
What
love
about
that.
what about you?
I mean, I think mine's a little more methodical and mechanical. Like you said, routine
Yeah,
is really
sure.
important.
Yeah.
And my mind needs to be directed. Usually the way my mind is built is if I'm not giving it something to create and focus on that's higher, it's usually working on destroying something. So like during times of, I have a daily gratitude practice, that which we'll cover here today, but one that I use throughout the day is anytime where my mind is undirected. It could be when I'm in traffic. It could be when I'm online at the coffee shop. It could be when I'm standing in the bank. It could, that's when I'm in danger territory. And I've trained myself at those times to go to gratitude. I'll start thinking about what it is that I'm grateful for. And I try to make them small things that I typically take for granted, which is a whole lot. It could be, I'm grateful that a bank exists. I'm grateful that, I have a roof over my head today, and I have clothes on my back, and I have food to eat. And I got in my car and I drove here. I have a driver's license with my name and my picture on it, which wasn't always the case, and so I like to call it garbage time. Like when my mind is undirected and I'm not focusing on a specific task, which is either usually, my mental, physical and emotional and spiritual well-being, or my recovery, or my health, or my business. That's the time when my mind is most dangerous. And that's the time where I like to practice gratitude. And sometimes I just say it to myself, and I try to feel each time I say a thing, I try to make it different each time. And I try to dig. I think the work is when you're stretching just a little bit and you almost can't come up with something. I think that's where where the doors get blown open and we get in touch with this force. But as far as like a daily maintenance goes, mine's I it's real simple. I like simple, quick, powerful tools. And so when I wake in the morning, for me, my spiritual, I usually wake up and I don't believe I'm ever going to be absolved from this. I don't know if it's a human condition or it's specific to somebody who is an alcoholic or a drug addict or is addicted to some sort of behavior. But I usually wake up in a ton of fear. I know there's a evolutionary biology and neuroscientific explanation to that is our cortisol levels are super high. It's there for a reason, because back in caveman days, we had to worry about a saber-toothed tiger eating us, or somebody coming to invade our village, and it's built into the human condition. So I usually wake up like stressed out, in a ton of fear, with a bad attitude, and I spring right into my daily morning practices, which is a prayer, exercise, and meditation practice. And most recently, over the past 9 months, I've added I take only cold showers, which is done, which has worked tremendously for me. It's crazy. And the first time I tried it, I hyperventilated and I couldn't breathe. And now I haven't touched warm water since April. And how I feel, when I get out of that shower, man, I am like, I'm firing on all cylinders. And usually right then, after I take the shower and I'm sitting there and I'm vibrating and I'm feeling really alive, that's when I use my gratitude tools, like just that minute or two when I'm breathing and standing in the shower. And that gives, that allows me to put my best foot forward for the day.
See, Joey, I've got a mate, PJ, who talks about those cold showers very often, and I really get the science behind it, and how I just can't. And you're in freezing cold weather as well. I imagine. I know when I go diving off the rocks at Bondi into the cold water, it's one of the times that I feel just amazingly alive. So I thanks for sharing that, and also I love that you sort of mentioned almost the opposite to me somewhat, with our gratitude, how we wake up and get connected. And I think you're right. Like, I probably do wake up with that fear on board. I certainly remembered in my early days of recovery. One tool that I've learned these days is I tell myself, and I've become so good at this, just shut up, Danny. I don't plug into that negative shit in the morning, because otherwise I won't get out of freaking bed if I plug into that stuff. So I think I just switch off from that default fear automatically when I get up, and I've got myself into such a good routine. I know what needs to be done, and I get cracking,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to be able to identify our lower self and our higher self, because I got both. As a human being, I feel like I don't think I'm all good or all bad. I'm both. I just need to understand like which voice is my lower nature and which voice is my higher nature. And I am what I pay attention to. So where my focus goes, energy flows. So I need to be able to identify that voice, you
Yeah.
know, and label it for what it is. Like call it my disease, call it my lower nature, call it part X. I don't necessarily think it matters, but I need to be like, oh, that's that. You know, I'm not like, you know, that's a part of me, but that's not all of me. And I get to choose where I focus. And that wasn't always the case. Like there was a great deal of my life, even in the first several years of recovery, where I didn't have awareness of this and I didn't feel like I had a choice. You know, part of my journey of recovery is it's been a slow, painful recovery for me. And when I got sober, I got a lot sicker before I got any better. And you know, so it is important, like, you know, to be plugged in to recovery communities or any community where people have, you know, a common problem and a common solution. And you know, this is something that I know that your work is based around, you know, both, you know, your full-time job and your other businesses. Is in reality, it's about serving others. So
Yeah.
you know, I try to, and that's not my default thinking. Like my default thinking is like, what's in it for me?
Yes.
Like, what do I have that someone's going to take, or what do I want that I can't get? I need to be there. So basically, my point is that it all starts with awareness. It's being able to be aware of it, accept it, know that hey, that is a part of me, but that's not me. I have a choice today.
Yeah. So selfless, eh? It is about that. Practicing being selfless. When we begin to be selfless, and there's that cliche that I'm sure you know that, like, well, I hear it often. The more I give, it's like the more the universe will provide as well. So it turns out to be a selfish thing because I'm giving to kind of receive down the track. It might not be today, it might not be next week, but I know and I trust and I have faith that when I continue to give back to mankind, and I say again, with kindness, number one, it all comes back. And even if it doesn't come back, that's exactly what was meant to come back, you know? I've got that perspective, you know, I've got that thinking. Yeah, that lower self too. I love that you mentioned the lower self because that's what we try and get out of with our gratitude, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the quickest way to change my state of mind. You mentioned, you know, you do it, you know, aside from your daily, you know, way you go about life and being kind and being compassionate and being of service. There's lots of different ways to change our states of mind, and physiologically is one really quick way to be able to do that. Is, you know, to get our heart rate up, and you know, I learned all types of tools. You know, I learned to keep my head up and, you know, keep my shoulders back and keep the right posture and, you know, self-talk, you know, how I speak to myself is super important. Like when I was really, really crashing and burning in recovery, where I sunk into a place of depression and that I hadn't experienced before because I was treating it with alcohol and drugs. And, you know, how I was filled with guilt and I was filled with shame. And no matter what, you know, self introspection work I did and what, you know, in the recovery communities that I'm a part of, I just always had that, like, I think it's about identity, right? I was diagnosed as being depressed. And like, I was scared to live and jump into the stream of life. And I took that diagnosis and I made it my identity. And I did depression like better than anybody else. Like, and you know, I manipulated other people with it. I was able to hide. I was able to not jump into the stream of life. And you know, that self-pity, you know, is like a drug, you know, and a lot of the tools that I learned to clean up my side of the street, so to speak, and take a thorough and moral inventory, I used as a club to beat myself through the first 4 or 5 years of my recovery. And it wasn't until I had hit another bottom in recovery. And part of my story is that one of the things that I did is when I got sober is I I put down, the bottle and the needle, and I picked up food. And, I was killing myself with food. I went from 220 to 415 and from 2009 to 2015. And I was worse mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually than I was when I got into recovery. And I got into recovery, I was homeless. I had a $300 a day heroin habit. I had pushed everybody important out of my life. And so like, that's where I was at. And it wasn't until I started looking at two things specifically, like what I was doing well on a daily basis, which my brain is not trained to identify. Like I said, when I wake up in the morning, and my typical, default thinking is like, my brain focuses on how I'm not enough, like where I fall short, or like I mentioned earlier, what I want that I can't have, what somebody has that I want. And it's negativity. And it's also evolutionary biology, which is, our brains, and this is built in to protect us, but it does everything but that most of the time, is 80% of our thoughts are negative and 90% of our thoughts are repetitive. So that means we like swapping a positive thought, for a negative thought doesn't work, because you need 5 positive thoughts to cancel out 1 negative thought. So gratitude is important because it plugs us into a force higher than us that can do for us what we can't do for ourselves. Tit for tat, swapping one positive thought for a negative thought never worked for me. So I started looking at what I did well every day. The simple things, it's like, hey, I woke up and, I made my bed. I brushed my teeth. I was kind towards others. I spent this amount of time on recovery. I helped this person. I did, this, because my brain at the end of the day, if I'm not looking at that, it just looks like, oh man, you fucked up. Like, this is where you fucked up. This is how you fell short. So writing 3 things at the end of the day that I did well, and writing 3 things that I'm grateful for, and doing it consistently, which means consistently means every day without fail. Because I need to keep that door cracked. Like, if as soon as I lose consistency, that door slams shut, and it's a whole lot harder to push it open again. So consistency is the most important thing with me when I'm practicing gratitude.
Mate, for Joey, like one of the tools that I've been using, and I truly believe this is a big contributor to my happiness, and you just touched on it briefly then, was for you do the 3 things that you're grateful for, the gratitude list. Yeah. And I think the most powerful thing I've been doing is an evening inventory, and I think I do it all day as well, but every single night, and I do not miss this. Even if I'm watching Netflix and I'm about to crash, I'll hit pause and I'll do this, right? I go to myself, Danny, what did you do good today? First of all, I acknowledge my assets. What have I done good today? It's important that we acknowledge what we've done good today. And then I go, all right, what did I do shit? And what could I do better tomorrow? Okay, I need to work on this, Danny. Okay, let's think how we're going to do that. And then I say a quick prayer. I always say thank you, number one, And when I talk about prayer, for me, it's just I believe in something bigger than me, I say thank you, number one. I think it's the key. And then I pray for my family and my friends. This tool, it's like it keeps me on track every single day, because if I continue to look at what I did good today and what I could do better tomorrow, and then tomorrow I actually take some action and I work on that shit, I just become a better person a day at a time, 1 foot in front of the other. And I think that is the most amazing tool I have ever come across. It's so simple. I do it in my head at bedtime every single night. Yeah, so you reminded me of that when you mentioned those 3 things of being grateful for, because that's what it is, isn't it? It's acknowledging the stuff that we're good at and the stuff we could work on.
Yeah, and it's what I've found in my own personal practice, and when I work with others, whether that be in recovery communities or with my personal clients, is that the most powerful things in the world enter through the smallest things. So I like to keep things really, really, really simple. And what we're really talking about here is creating habits. Like, we're trying to teach somebody to create a gratitude practice. And when you're building habits, the only way to build one is there's a very specific formula to build a habit. And like, I need to remember that I can't reinvent the wheel. First thing is that I need to take on the identity of the person who already possesses the habit.
Yeah.
And that is an inner game, and that could be done through visualization, through, affirmation.
Yeah.
But then I like to break it down super, super small. Let's just say, I want to create a habit of, I want to be a runner, right? So how I would begin to create that habit. And it's important because I need to set myself up to win in order for me to be consistent and start to build momentum. So it's like, I start by like I mentioned, I put on all that weight, man. I was 415 pounds, I'm almost back down to my ideal weight, but I could barely move. So obviously I needed to move my body, I needed to change a lot. But I started by something really, really small. I said, I'm going to drink 60 ounces of water a day. I'm going to not eat past 9 o'clock. And I'm just going to put my shoes on and get out the front door.
Yeah.
And if I get out the front door, if I choose to stop, that's a win for me. Like, I chalk that up as a win. It's not like, oh, Joe, you're a fat bastard. You couldn't even get to the end of the driveway. It's like, no, like I set the sight really small, and those little bites, those little tiny steps added up and taken consistently, compounded over time, add up to a whole lot.
Absolutely, man. It's important to have that routine, like you said in the beginning. Absolutely. You've kicked it off. You've created a habit. I love that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go. You go.
No, I wanted to share another thing that important part of my gratitude practice is, and it includes getting out into nature. And this is something that you live by the ocean, and does it get cold in Australia ever?
It's funny. I'm just laughing because I don't live by the ocean. Not right now.
How come I see you on the beach in your videos?
Yeah, because thanks.
Is that like a Zoom backdrop or something?
Green screen.
Are you in Alaska? You're just bullshitting us all.
It's only an hour away, and my work, amazingly enough. So when you see me by the beach, I'm actually at work getting paid to help a bunch of men do this exact same stuff too. So I am close to the beach, but I'm not there now. I'm in the western suburbs of Sydney right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my point is that when I get into nature, a lot of times I like to hike, right? That's one of the things I like to do, and I have a place where I can do that here. It's it's not the Rocky Mountains or something huge, but it's where I can get into nature. I can get into the woods where I can't hear the traffic, and I can work up a sweat. And sometimes I get in there, and I just, with a task, it's like, I'm gonna walk this many miles or this amount of time, and I forget to look up. I forget that look around and look up at the trees and look at the sky and look at the sun. And I'm a sun worshiper, so part of my gratitude practice is I put my face in the sun and I look up to the sun and I thank the sun for giving me life, for giving us energy, for making things grow, for keeping us warm. And so a big part of my gratitude practice includes nature, and specifically water. What is it? 71% of the earth is covered in water. 60% of our bodies are water, and 60% of our brains are water. As humans, we're naturally built to respond positively to water. So I try to get in, on, and around water as much as I can. And when I do, I like to take those opportunities to, express my gratitude. So connecting with nature is a way that I can express my gratitude. And what it's all about really is getting in the present moment. Like if my head's off into what I need to do later, or, yesterday, I'm not where my higher power is. I'm not where the universe is. Life is happening now. So all these tools, gratitude, or getting out into nature, or, exercising, or prayer, or meditation, no matter what it looks like, is about staying present, because, higher forces don't exist in the past and the future. They only exist in the present.
my biggest one, and it is nature, and I want to share this with I when I was about 10 months abstinent, and up until that point I used to hear people talk about gratitude, and I used to just think, shut up. Like, I used to hear people talk about how beautiful the grounds of this hospital were, and I used to just think, what are you talking about? And then one night I was on my way home from a fellowship meeting, and I looked up at the moon, and I'm 10 months clean. Up until then, I was incredibly ungrateful, but I remember looking at the moon, and for the first time, my spirit, like, it completely woke up, man. It was like I was connected to the moon, and I'll never forget that one day. And every time I see the moon these days, I look up and I try and get that same feeling. And sometimes I do. Sometimes it's grown tenfold compared to that original feeling, but there's something about the moon that really sparks my spirit 100%. And it reminds me of what you were just saying around that nature stuff, because when I'm down the beach and diving in the cold water, I certainly feel alive too. There's so many little things around nature that really create that positive. But if I go into those positions, looking at the moon, going to the beach, being out in nature angry, or not already working on this stuff, I stay in it. I'm pretty sure, you might have a bit of an awakening. And because sometimes you're having a tough day, for example, someone will come into my office angry and upset, and you might just say one thing that'll prick their ears, and they'll give them a different perspective as well, But yeah, ultimately, I think I need to continue practicing this stuff daily. You can't just I can't do something good today and wake up tomorrow and expect to be happy. Would you agree?
No, I agree. Consistency is the most important thing. It doesn't take long for my brain to turn on me, so I need to be working on this stuff daily. And I don't want to give the false impression that, like, life is all like rainbows and unicorns and candy canes, and that, I'm walking around with this amazing attitude all the time. And, here's the thing about gratitude is like, I don't need to be feeling grateful. I don't feel grateful all the time. I'd be lying to you if I told you that I was grateful all the time, or I'm in this state of mind where all I can see is my blessings. I'm not, but like the feelings of gratitude and the benefits of gratitude are the direct result or byproducts of the practice of gratitude. So like these exercises and some of these little tools that we're talking about is enough to shift our perspective. And that's what for me, people hear the word spirituality, they have different beliefs around that.
Yeah, sure.
My belief is more like mechanical, and like all spiritual work is about shifting perspective. And so that's what gratitude does. It shifts my perspective. Sure, sometimes I get, the universe throws me a bone, and I get struck by gratitude, and like where I'm overwhelmed with gratefulness. But typically I have to generate it on my own. And it's always there. It's always giving to us. We just need to align with it. And so some of these tools are ways that we can do that. So I know that we don't have much time. I know it's running on. We got to 35. I did want to mention that we're like, this is our first time doing this. We're kind of winging it. We've really connected, and we want to do more together, and we want to be able to add value everywhere that we can. And so what we're going to try to do, and there's no set schedule for it yet, is to each and every, whether we decide to do it bi-weekly or once a month or maybe even once a week, we'll see how that pans out, is to bring a guest on here and for them to share how gratitude has influenced their lives and some of the, tools that they use to plug into the force of gratitude. And who knows where it evolves from there. So if anyone here is on here watching and, wants to connect with us and feel like, they have something that they want to share that might be useful to our community, or just simply to do something hard and do something that maybe makes you feel uncomfortable, like get on camera with a couple guys and just, talk and get vulnerable and see what comes out of it. Just connect with us, send us a DM, send us an email, touch with base with us on social. We want to bring some people in here from all walks of life to share how gratitude has influenced in their lives, because I think it's the way.
Good man, Joe. Where would people connect with you personally if they want to? reach out?
On LinkedIn, at Joseph Pollaro, on Facebook, efficacy.lifecoaching.com. That's EFFICACY life coaching. That's my Facebook business page. Or email Joseph, JOSEPH at efficacy, EFFICACY lifecoaching.com, or my website, whatever. You can find me.
Good on you. We'll make sure as we do progress and get this show underway, we have all those links attached to the posts. And Joey, before we do go, we've had people joining us from all over the world, which I just think is absolutely amazing. I did give a shout out to Heidi and Tanika in the beginning. A couple of comments that came up. Jane, hey Jane, I'm so glad you were able to join us from beautiful Perth. Mentioned that the beach is a great place and really appreciate nature. Do this every morning when I go for a run along the beach. Thanks for sharing with us, Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
Ray mentioned about the Wim Hof method, talking about the cold showers. Ray's a great support. He joins me every week, and thank you very much to Brian for giving the shout out. So we've got people coming in from Maryland as well. Maybe it's one of your connections.
Yeah, we're here, East Coast.
Look, just before we go, let me wrap up the show with this. I was in New Jersey, okay, and I'll never forget this. All right, I think about my trip to America probably every single day since I've been there. That's going back 3 years ago. But if I can just share this little story with you, one of the things I practice on a daily basis, guys, one of the best tools I have is getting out of my comfort zone and being brave. I think when I take those steps to be brave, amazing shit can happen. So I was in New Jersey. We just dropped off an RV at some company there, and we had to get the train into New York. We went and had dinner. I was at this little train station, and there was a couple of girls from New Jersey there, and we kind of said hello and that, and I built up the courage to go out and ask one of them out, which is something that's certainly not in my in my system. I remember it took so much
courage to spit you out, man.
Yeah, and anyway, I ended up getting a number, and we connected again in New York. So, I think there's a movie. Is it? I forget what it is, but he talks about like we've only get that 20 seconds to make a smart choice in our life that could change everything for the rest of the world. I love that stuff, Joey. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be connected with you. There's so much more we've got to talk about in coming weeks. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna continue to grow and invite more people in and try to add value in our communities and spread the message of hope. Because we're both walking miracles here, and I like to say that like whatever I think is possible is a really, really small fraction of what is actually possible, and it's important that I surround myself with people that have a possibility mindset. And if you are struggling and you can't see a light at the end of the tunnel, come join us and we'll hold your hand and help walk you out.
Absolutely. And I'd love to as well. That's the thing, All right, Joey, you know why I've got to cut this show short? Because I've been invited to get on a media interview with Channel 7 here, and it's on in 5 minutes. So I'm very sorry that we had to cut the show short, but I think this was perfect, mate. 40 minutes of love for our audience. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Joey, stay with me for a sec. I'm going to end the broadcast. See you guys. Thank you so much.
Stay grateful.